I smoothed my skirt and took a deep breath, steeling myself for another one of Cecilia's impromptu visits. The doorbell chimed, and I plastered on a smile before opening the door. "Laura, thank goodness you're home." Cecilia burst in, her designer purse swinging wildly. "I'm in such a pickle, and I didn't know who else to turn to." I bit back a sigh. "What's wrong this time, Cecilia?" She collapsed dramatically onto my couch. "It's the mortgage. I'm behind again, and they're threatening foreclosure. I just need a little help to tide me over." I perched on the edge of an armchair, my patience wearing thin. "Cecilia, we've been through this before. Ethan and I can't keep bailing you out." "But your family?" she wailed. "What am I supposed to do?" Before I could respond, my cell phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID and felt a wave of relief. "I'm sorry, Cecilia, but I need to take this. It's my father." I stepped into the kitchen, grateful for the interruption. "Hi, Dad. How are you feeling?" "Laura, sweetheart." My father's voice was uncharacteristically serious. "I need you to come over. There's something important we need to discuss." A chill ran down my spine. "Is everything okay?" "Just come as soon as you can," he said, then hung up. I returned to the living room, where Cecilia was rifling through her purse. "I'm sorry, but I have to go. My father needs me." Cecilia's head snapped up. "But what about my situation?" "We'll talk later," I said firmly, ushering her towards the door. "I really have to go." As I drove to my father's house, my mind raced. What could be so urgent? Dad had always been the picture of health, but lately he'd seemed more tired than usual. I pulled into the driveway and hurried inside. "Dad, where are you?" "In here, Laura," he called from the study. I found him sitting behind his desk, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "What's going on, Dad? You're scaring me." He gestured for me to sit. "I'm afraid I have some bad news, sweetheart. I've been to see Dr. Jameson, and, well, it's not good." My heart dropped. "What do you mean?" "I have cancer, Laura, and it's advanced. They're giving me 6 months, maybe a year." The world tilted on its axis. "No," I whispered. "There must be some mistake. We'll get a second opinion, try different treatments." Dad reached across the desk and took my hand. "I've already done all that. It's time to face facts, but that's not why I called you here." I blinked back tears. "What do you mean?" He pulled out a thick folder. "I need to get my affairs in order, and there are some things you need to know. I've made some investments over the years, properties and such. I want to make sure you're taken care of after I'm gone." "Dad, stop," I pleaded. "I don't want to talk about this." "We have to, Laura. You need to be prepared." As he started explaining about bank accounts and real estate holdings, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Where are you? Cecilia's upset. What happened?" I ignored it, trying to focus on my father's words. But my mind was reeling. How could this be happening? And how was I going to tell Ethan? Dad must have sensed my distraction. "We can go over the details later. For now, just know that everything's taken care of. You won't have to worry." I nodded numbly, still struggling to process it all. As I stood to leave, Dad pulled me into a tight hug. "We'll get through this, sweetheart," he murmured. "Together." I clung to him, wishing I could freeze this moment and make time stand still. But as I pulled away, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. Driving home, I felt like I was in a fog. How could I face Ethan and Cecilia with this news? How could I face anyone? As I pulled into my driveway, I saw Cecilia's car still parked out front. My heart sank. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready for any of it. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of the car and walked towards the house, bracing myself for whatever came next. The day of Dad's funeral dawned gray and somber, matching my mood perfectly. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my black dress, when Ethan appeared behind me. "You ready?" he asked, his hand on my shoulder. I nodded, not trusting my voice. As we drove to the church, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The service was a blur of tears and whispered condolences. I barely registered the words of the eulogy, focusing instead on the framed photo of Dad next to his casket. He looked so alive, so vibrant. How could he be gone? As we gathered at the cemetery, Cecilia sidled up to me. "Laura, I'm so sorry for your loss," she said, her voice dripping with sympathy. "Your father was such a generous man. I'm sure he made sure you were well taken care of." I stiffened, shocked by her brazenness. Before I could respond, Ethan pulled me away. "Not now," he muttered. Back at the house, I retreated to Dad's study, needing a moment alone. I ran my fingers over his desk, remembering our last conversation. The folder he'd shown me was still there, tucked away in a drawer. A knock at the door startled me. It was Mr. Jameson, Dad's lawyer. "Laura, I'm sorry to disturb you, but there are some matters we need to discuss," he said gently. I nodded, gesturing for him to sit. "What is it?" He pulled out a thick envelope. "Your father's will." He was very specific about his wishes. As Mr. Jameson began reading, I felt a mix of emotions wash over me. Dad had left me everything: the house, his savings, even a few properties I didn't know he owned. "There's one more thing," Mr. Jameson said, handing me a sealed letter. "Your father wanted you to have this privately." I took it with trembling hands, but before I could open it, the door burst open. Ethan and Cecilia stood there, their eyes wide. "What's going on?" Ethan demanded. Mr. Jameson stood. "I was just going over Harold's will with Laura, if you'll excuse us." "No," Cecilia interrupted. "We're family. We should hear this too." I felt a surge of anger. "This is private, Cecilia. Please leave." Ethan stepped forward. "Laura, don't you think we should discuss this as a family? After all, what affects you affects me too." I stared at him, suddenly seeing him in a new light. "What exactly are you implying, Ethan?" Before he could answer, Cecilia chimed in. "We're just concerned, Laura. You've been through so much. You shouldn't have to deal with all this alone." I stood up, clutching Dad's letter to my chest. "I'm not alone. I have my father's memory and his wishes to guide me. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need some time to myself." I brushed past them, ignoring their protests. In the sanctuary of my bedroom, I finally opened Dad's letter with shaking hands. "My dearest Laura," it began. "If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. But I want you to know that I've made arrangements to protect you and your inheritance. Trust your instincts, sweetheart. Not everyone has your best interests at heart." Tears blurred my vision as I read on. Dad had suspected that Ethan and Cecilia might try to take advantage of the situation. He'd set up trusts and legal safeguards to ensure that his legacy remained mine alone. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. "Laura?" It was Ethan. "We need to talk about the will." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation ahead. As I reached for the doorknob, I realized that the battle for my father's legacy and my own future was just beginning. "Coming," I called out, tucking the letter safely away. Whatever happened next, I knew I had to stay strong, for Dad and for myself. The incessant ringing of the doorbell jolted me awake. I glanced at the clock. 7:30 a.m.? Who could it be at this hour? Ethan was already gone, having left early for a business meeting. I threw on a robe and hurried downstairs, only to find Cecilia on my doorstep, looking frazzled. "Laura, thank goodness you're home," she exclaimed, barging past me. "I'm in dire straits. The bank is threatening to repossess my car." I sighed, closing the door. "Cecilia, it's barely morning. Couldn't this wait?" She whirled around, eyes wide. "Wait, Laura, I could lose my car today. I need your help. Just a small loan to tide me over." The audacity of her request so soon after Dad's funeral made my blood boil. "Cecilia, I'm still grieving. I can't deal with your financial problems right now." "But you have all that money now," she pressed. "Surely you can spare some for family?" I felt a surge of anger. "That's enough. My inheritance is not your personal piggy bank. I think you should leave." Cecilia's face hardened. "I see how it is. You get a windfall and suddenly you're too good for family. Ethan will hear about this." As I watched her storm out, I realized the peace I'd hoped for after Dad's passing was slipping further away. Later that afternoon, as I sorted through Dad's belongings, my phone buzzed. It was an email from my old high school announcing an upcoming reunion. I hesitated, then decided to RSVP. Maybe a night out would do me good. Just then, Ethan walked in, looking tired. "Hey," he said, kissing my cheek. "How was your day?" I debated whether to mention Cecilia's visit, but decided against it. "Fine. Just going through some of Dad's things. How was your meeting?" He shrugged, loosening his tie. Same old, same old. "Listen, I was thinking we should talk about the inheritance. Maybe consider investing some of it." I felt my guard go up. "I'm not ready to make any decisions yet, Ethan. It's too soon." He frowned. "Laura, we can't just sit on that kind of money. We need to be smart about this." "We," I echoed. "Dad left it to me, Ethan. I'll decide what to do with it when I'm ready." The tension in the room was palpable. Ethan opened his mouth to argue, but his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then back at me. "We'll discuss this later. I have to take this call." As he hurried out, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Why was he so interested in my inheritance? The next morning, I woke to find Ethan already gone again. There was a note on the kitchen counter. Early meeting. Don't wait up tonight. Feeling restless, I decided to visit one of the properties Dad had left me, a small apartment building across town. As I pulled up, I noticed a familiar car parked outside. Cecilia's. Confused, I made my way to the building's office. The door was ajar, and I could hear voices inside. "She's being so stubborn," Cecilia was saying. "We need to find a way to convince her to share the inheritance." "Patience," a male voice replied. It took me a moment to recognize it as Ethan's. "We'll get what's ours. Just stick to the plan." I stumbled backward, my mind reeling. Ethan and Cecilia were plotting against me? How long had this been going on? As I turned to leave, my foot caught on a loose floorboard. The resulting creak seemed to echo through the hallway. "Did you hear that?" Cecilia's voice was sharp with alarm. I held my breath, pressing myself against the wall. Footsteps approached the door. "Hello?" Ethan called out. "Is someone there?" My heart pounding, I realized I had a choice to make. Confront them now, or retreat and plan my next move carefully. Either way, I knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same again. I smoothed my dress nervously as I entered the high school gymnasium. The reunion was in full swing, a sea of familiar yet changed faces. I'd come here hoping for a distraction from the mess at home, but now I felt overwhelmed. "Laura? Laura Thompson, is that you?" I turned to see a vaguely familiar face. "It's Laura Prescott now, but yes, I'm sorry, I don't." "Peter Caldwell," he said, grinning widely. "We had chemistry together. Well, the class, not, you know." I forced a polite smile, memories flooding back. Peter had always been a bit intense. "Of course, Peter. How are you?" "Oh, I'm great," he said, edging closer. "But wow, look at you. You haven't aged a day." I took a step back, feeling uncomfortable. "That's kind of you to say. If you'll excuse me, I need to." "Wait," Peter said, grabbing my arm. "I've always regretted not telling you how I felt back then. I had such a crush on you, Laura." I gently but firmly removed his hand. "Peter, that was a long time ago. I'm married now." His eyes narrowed. "Married? To who?" "Ethan Prescott," I said, scanning the room for an escape route. Peter's face darkened. "Prescott? As in Cecilia Prescott's brother?" I froze. "You know Cecilia?" He laughed bitterly. "Oh, I know her all right. She's been stringing me along for months, always needing favors, but now I see what's really going on." My heart raced. "What do you mean?" Peter leaned in, his breath hot on my ear. "Your husband and his sister are planning something, Laura, and it involves you." I stumbled back, my mind reeling. "You're lying. Why should I believe you?" "Because I can prove it," he said, pulling out his phone. "Cecilia's been careless, left some interesting texts on my phone when she borrowed it." With shaking hands, I took the phone. What I saw made my blood run cold. Messages between Cecilia and Ethan discussing ways to access my inheritance, plans to manipulate me, to push me to make rash decisions. "This can't be real," I whispered. Peter's eyes gleamed with a mix of sympathy and something else. Excitement? "Oh, it's real, all right. And there's more where that came from." I handed the phone back, feeling sick. "Why are you showing me this?" He shrugged. "Maybe I still have a soft spot for you, or maybe I'm just tired of being Cecilia's puppet. Either way, you deserve to know." I nodded numbly, my mind racing. What was I going to do with this information? Peter touched my arm again. "Listen, Laura, I can help you. We could team up, get back at them both. What do you say?" I stared at him, suddenly seeing the situation clearly. Peter wasn't my savior, he was just another player in this twisted game, but he had given me valuable information, whether he meant to or not. "Thank you for telling me, Peter," I said carefully, "but I need to handle this on my own." His face fell. "But Laura—" "No," I said firmly, "this is my fight. Please don't contact me again." As I walked away, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Where are you? We need to talk about the inheritance. It's important." I took a deep breath, making a decision. It was time to stop reacting and start taking control. I would play along for now, gather more evidence. And then, when the time was right, I would confront them all. I texted back, on my way home. "You're right. We have a lot to discuss." As I left the reunion, I felt a strange mix of dread and determination. The game had changed, and now I knew the rules. It was time to start playing to win. I stepped out of my office building, exhausted after a long day of work. As I fumbled for my car keys, a familiar voice made me freeze. "Laura, fancy seeing you here." I turned slowly, my heart sinking. Peter stood there, grinning as if we were old friends. "Peter, what are you doing here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He shrugged, stepping closer. "I was in the neighborhood, thought I'd say hi." "How did you know where I work?" I demanded, alarm bells ringing in my head. "Oh, I have my ways," he said with a wink. "Listen, I've been thinking about our conversation at the reunion. I really think we should talk more about Ethan and Cecilia." I backed away, clutching my purse tightly. "I told you, I'm handling it myself. Please leave me alone." His face darkened. "You're making a mistake, Laura. You need me." Before I could respond, a coworker walked by, giving us a curious look. I forced a smile and turned back to Peter. "I have to go. Don't come here again." As I drove home, my mind raced. How had Peter found me, and what would he do next? The next morning, I woke to find Ethan already gone. There was a note on the kitchen counter. "Early meeting. Don't wait up tonight." I sighed, realizing how common these early meetings had become. As I sipped my coffee, movement outside caught my eye. I peered through the window and nearly dropped my mug. Peter was standing across the street, staring at our house. My hands shaking, I called Ethan. It went straight to voicemail. "Ethan, call me as soon as you get this. It's urgent." I paced the living room, debating what to do. Should I call the police? But what would I say? That my husband's sister's ex-boyfriend was stalking me because of some convoluted inheritance scheme? A knock at the door made me jump. I approached cautiously, relief washing over me when I saw it was just the mailman. But as I opened the door, Peter appeared behind him. "Special delivery," Peter said with a smirk, pushing past me into the house. "Get out," I shouted, reaching for my phone. "I'm calling the police." Peter held up his hands. "Wait, I have proof of what Ethan and Cecilia are planning. Real proof this time." Despite my better judgment, I hesitated. "What are you talking about?" He pulled out a USB drive. "Everything's on here. Bank statements, emails, recorded conversations. They're planning to have you declared mentally unfit, Laura, to take control of your inheritance." I felt the blood drain from my face. "That's impossible. Ethan wouldn't." "See for yourself," Peter said, offering me the drive. My hand trembled as I reached for it. Just then, I heard a key in the lock. Ethan's voice called out, "Laura, whose car is that out front?" Peter's eyes widened. He shoved the USB drive into my hand and bolted for the back door. I quickly slipped the drive into my pocket as Ethan entered. "Laura, what's going on?" Ethan asked, looking around suspiciously. I took a deep breath, making a split-second decision. "Nothing, honey. Just got a bit of a fright from a door-to-door salesman. Everything's fine." Ethan relaxed slightly, but I could see doubt in his eyes. "All right. Listen, I was thinking we should have dinner with Cecilia tonight to discuss some family matters." I nodded, my mind racing. "Sure, that sounds great." As Ethan headed upstairs to change, I clutched the USB drive in my pocket. I had a choice to make. Trust Peter's evidence and confront Ethan and Cecilia? Or play along and try to uncover the truth myself? One thing was certain, tonight's dinner would change everything. And I had to be ready. The doorbell rang, and I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Cecilia's visit was no surprise. Ethan had arranged this family dinner after all. But the tension in the air was palpable as I opened the door. "Laura, darling," Cecilia exclaimed, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. She breezed past me, Ethan following close behind. As we settled in the living room, I couldn't help but notice the furtive glances Ethan and Cecilia exchanged. My hand instinctively went to my pocket, feeling the outline of the USB drive Peter had given me. "So, Laura," Cecilia began, her voice sickly sweet, "how have you been coping? It must be so difficult, dealing with your grief and all this newfound responsibility." I forced a smile. "I'm managing, thank you. Dad prepared me well." Ethan cleared his throat. "Speaking of which, Laura, we really need to discuss the inheritance. I've been thinking." "Actually," I interrupted, my heart racing, "I have something I'd like to discuss first." They both stared at me, surprise evident on their faces. I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone, bringing up the photos Peter had sent me. Pictures of Ethan and Cecilia meeting in secret, looking far too cozy. "Care to explain these?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. The color drained from Ethan's face. Cecilia let out a nervous laugh. "Oh, those? That's nothing, just a family meeting." Stop lying, I snapped. I know what you've been planning, trying to have me declared mentally unfit? Really? Ethan stood up, his face a mask of anger. Where did you get those photos? Have you been spying on us? That's rich, coming from you, I retorted. I'm not the one plotting behind my spouse's back. Cecilia's demeanor changed in an instant. You ungrateful bitch, she hissed. After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done? I laughed bitterly. You mean constantly begging for money? Trying to manipulate me out of my inheritance? Ethan stepped forward, his eyes blazing. You have no idea what you're talking about. We were trying to protect you, to make sure you didn't squander everything your father left you. By having me declared incompetent? I shot back. Some protection. Suddenly Ethan's expression shifted. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face. You want to play hardball, Laura? Fine, let's talk about your little rendezvous with Peter. My blood ran cold. What? He pulled out his phone, showing me a series of photos. Peter and me at the reunion, outside my office, even at our front door. Looks like I'm not the only one with secrets, Ethan sneered. That's not what it looks like, I stammered. Peter's been stalking me. I was trying to handle it on my own. Save it, Cecilia interjected. We have all the evidence we need. How do you think it'll look to a judge when we show them these? A grieving widow, acting erratically, meeting strange men. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. They'd set me up. Peter, the photos, the USB drive, it was all part of their plan. You won't get away with this, I said, my voice shaking. Ethan's laugh was cold. We already have. Face it, Laura. You're out of your depth. Sign over control of the inheritance now, and we can avoid a messy public legal battle. I looked between them. These people I'd once considered family, now revealed as vultures circling their prey. In that moment, I felt more alone than ever. But then I remembered my father's words from his letter. Trust your instincts, sweetheart. Not everyone has your best interests at heart. I straightened my spine, meeting their gazes head-on. You're right about one thing, I said quietly. This ends now, but not the way you think. I pulled out the USB drive, holding it up. You're not the only ones with evidence, and unlike your fabricated photos, what's on here is real. So here's what's going to happen. As I laid out my terms, I saw the confidence drain from their faces. The game had changed, and for the first time I held all the cards. The battle for my father's legacy and my own future had reached its tipping point, and I was ready to fight. The morning after my confrontation with Ethan and Cecilia, I woke to an empty house and a text message from an unknown number. Meet me at Riverside Park, 1 p.m. Come alone, Peter. My instincts screamed danger, but I knew I needed answers. I arrived at the park early, scanning the area for any sign of Ethan or Cecilia. Peter was already there, pacing nervously by the fountain. Laura, he called out, relief evident in his voice. I wasn't sure you'd come. I kept my distance, eyeing him warily. Start talking, Peter. What's your role in all this? He ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely distressed. I'm so sorry, Laura. I never meant for it to go this far. Cecilia, she blackmailed me. Said she'd ruin me if I didn't help set you up. Why should I believe you? I demanded. Peter pulled out his phone. Because I recorded everything, every conversation, every plan they made. I couldn't go through with it anymore. As he played the recordings, my world tilted on its axis. Ethan's voice, cold and calculating, discussing ways to manipulate me. Cecilia, gleefully planning how they'd spend my inheritance once I was out of the picture. Oh, God, I whispered, feeling sick. How long has this been going on? Months, Peter admitted. Since before your father passed. They've been planning this for a long time, Laura. I sank onto a nearby bench, my mind reeling. Why come clean now? Peter sat beside me, keeping a respectful distance, because I realized how wrong it was, and because I really did have feelings for you back in school. I couldn't be part of destroying your life. Just then, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Where are you? We need to talk. Come home now. I showed Peter the message, my heart racing. What do I do? He hesitated, then said, Go, act like nothing's changed. I'll send you copies of everything I have. Use it to protect yourself. I nodded, standing on shaky legs. Thank you, Peter. I'm sorry I misjudged you. As I drove home, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions, betrayal, anger, fear, but underneath it all, a steely determination was forming. I wouldn't be their victim any longer. Ethan was waiting when I walked in, his face a mask of concern. Where have you been? I've been worried sick. I forced a smile. Just needed some air to clear my head after last night. He nodded, reaching for my hand. I fought the urge to recoil. I'm sorry about how things went. We all said things we didn't mean. But I think I have a solution. Oh? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Ethan led me to the dining room where Cecilia was waiting with a stack of papers. My stomach dropped. We've drawn up some documents, Ethan explained, just to help manage the inheritance, for your own protection, of course. I glanced at the papers, recognizing power of attorney forms. They were really going through with it. I don't know, I said, feigning uncertainty. This is a big decision. Can I have some time to think about it? Cecilia's smile was razor sharp. Of course, dear, but don't take too long. We wouldn't want things to get messy. As they talked, outlining their plans for my father's legacy, I felt a calm settle over me. They thought they had won, but they had no idea what was coming. My phone buzzed quietly. Peter's files had arrived. I excused myself, retreating to the bathroom. As I scrolled through the damning evidence, a plan began to form. I looked at myself in the mirror, seeing a strength I hadn't known I possessed. Game on, I whispered to my reflection. Returning to the dining room, I plastered on a smile. All right, I said, picking up the pen. Let's talk about these documents. Ethan and Cecilia exchanged triumphant glances, unaware that their carefully laid plans were about to come crashing down around them. The final act was about to begin, and I was ready to reclaim my life and my father's legacy, once and for all. I stood in the living room of Ethan's parents' house, my heart pounding but my resolve unshakable. Around me, the faces of the Prescott family, including Ethan and Cecilia, ranged from confused to suspicious. Laura, dear, Ethan's mother began, what's this all about? Why have you called us all here? I took a deep breath. I have something important to share with all of you, something that will change everything. Ethan stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. Laura, whatever you're thinking. No, I cut him off firmly. You've done enough talking. Now it's my turn. I pulled out my tablet and connected it to the TV. What you're about to see and hear might shock you, but I assure you, it's all true. As I played the recordings Peter had given me, the room fell into stunned silence. Ethan and Cecilia's voices filled the air, detailing their plans to manipulate me, to steal my inheritance, to have me declared incompetent. Ethan's father stood up, his face red with anger. What is the meaning of this? It means, I said, my voice steady, that your son and daughter have been plotting against me since before my father died. They've lied, cheated, and manipulated everyone in this room. Cecilia lunged forward. You bitch! You have no proof. I have every proof, I interrupted, pulling out a stack of documents. Bank statements showing mysterious transfers, emails detailing your plans, even a recorded confession from Peter about how you blackmailed him into helping you. The room erupted into chaos. Ethan's mother was sobbing, his father shouting. Cecilia was screaming denials while Ethan stood frozen, his face ashen. I raised my voice above the din. I'm not finished. There's more. I played the final recording, a conversation between Ethan and his mistress, planning their future with my money. The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan's father turned to him, his voice shaking with rage. Is this true? Have you brought this disgrace upon our family? Ethan's shoulders slumped in defeat. Dad, I can explain. Get out, his father growled. Both of you. You're no longer welcome in this family. As Ethan and Cecilia were ushered out, hurling accusations and threats, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. It was over. Ethan's mother approached me, tears in her eyes. Laura, I'm so sorry. We had no idea. I squeezed her hand gently. I know. You're victims in this too. As I prepared to leave, Ethan's father stopped me. What will you do now? I smiled, feeling truly free for the first time in months. I'm going to honor my father's legacy, the way he would have wanted. Driving home, I reflected on the whirlwind of events that had led to this moment. The betrayal, the pain, the fear, but also the strength I'd found within myself. I pulled into my driveway, noticing a familiar figure waiting on the porch. Peter. I heard what happened, he said as I approached. Are you okay? I nodded, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. I am. Thank you for your help, Peter. I couldn't have done this without you. He shifted awkwardly. Laura, I know I messed up before, but I was wondering. I held up a hand, stopping him. Peter, I appreciate everything you've done, but right now I need to focus on myself, on healing. Understanding dawned in his eyes. He nodded, offering a small smile. Of course. Take care of yourself, Laura. As I watched him walk away, I felt the last pieces of my old life falling away. I entered the house, my house now truly mine, and looked around. The rooms that had once felt suffocating now held promise. I picked up a framed photo of my father, tracing his smiling face. I did it, Dad, I whispered. I protected what you built, and I found myself along the way. Setting the photo down, I walked to the window and looked out at the setting sun. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as new opportunities, but for the first time in a long time, I was ready to face them. Not as a victim, not as someone's wife or daughter, but as Laura, strong, resilient, and finally truly free.